All right, so I'm going to be reviewing Christopher Nolan's Tenet on 4K Blu-ray. And if you guys are new to the channel, this is OLED Kingdom. You want to join, hit that subscribe button, join the kingdom. I am going to be reviewing content on my LG CX 77-inch. And if you guys want to see what other equipment I'm using, it's going to be in the description below. But this is Christopher Nolan's newest film, Tenet. I'm not going to be really talking about the plot too much. I'll touch a little bit on it. I'm just going to be reviewing the video and audio quality. So I'll start with the picture, how I thought it looked, go into the HDR, and then at the end I'll touch on the audio. So Christopher Nolan has released a lot of his films on 4K, most of them, and I own all the available ones on the 4K format. I saw this film. Actually, I saw like an early release of it a couple days before it came out in the US, and I saw it in laser IMAX, 4K laser IMAX. This was not in the full 1.43 IMAX aspect ratio. I'm up here in the Northeast, and unfortunately New York is still closed, so I couldn't see it in the 70mm. But I saw it in the next best available format, and visually and audio wise, I was really excited to check this out on 4K. I knew watching it in the theater it was going to look absolutely amazing. So I want to say right off the bat, this is definitely Christopher Nolan's. It's definitely his best film visually on the 4K format. So many of the shots are really breathtaking. So we'll get into the. We'll start talking about the picture quality first. I'm not going to be talking about spoilers here, but I am going to put up some clips to kind of give you guys ideas of how the film looks. It's clips from trailers and stuff like that. But overall, the 4K image on this is extremely, extremely sharp. There's just details throughout the image. Absolutely zero imperfections that I could capture with my eye. I'm sitting about 9 feet away, and I mean, it's a really, really beautiful film. I did pop in the 1080p Blu-ray disc, and it looked really, really good. 1080p Blu-ray looks really, really good. And then I swapped over and put the 4K in, and the 4K is just absolutely perfect. The detail in this, it's crazy that this was shot on film. I know that they used 70mm, and then they also used of course, 70mm IMAX, right? So you are going to get the shifting aspect ratio in this. It goes from 2.2 to 1.9, I believe. The 1.9 is the full screen. The 2.2, there are black bars, but they're not really thick black bars. They are kind of thin black bars, so it's not as jarring as some other movies with the aspect ratio change. But yeah, the picture quality on this is really, really pristine. I found that there was really, really limited film grain on the 70mm shots. A lot of Christopher Nolan's previous films, like, for example, Interstellar. I know on Interstellar, they use 35mm in that, and there is some blurriness in that, and there's some grain, but it's just not as sharp and detailed on this. Even the 70mm non-IMAX shots in Tenet were just absolutely gorgeous. This is the best I've ever seen from Christopher Nolan visually on the format. It looked really, really great. So really, as far as detail and sharpness and just raw data in the image, I would say this is an absolute 10. There's so many shots that Christopher Nolan is just completely flexing his muscles that I'm using the IMAX camera. You guys can see that he's using the IMAX camera, just doing these long shots, not super long, but 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds long of just if you guys have seen Christopher Nolan's other movies, you'll be familiar with his style. I know the cinematographer did Interstellar, and he's done all the other recent Nolan films, Dunkirk, and it's a very similar style to that. So yeah, visually absolutely outstanding. Let's talk about the HDR. Let's talk about the black levels. You guys want to know how the black levels look because we're in OLED kingdom, guys. The blacks, right? So if you guys are familiar with Christopher Nolan's other movies on 4K, for example, Dunkirk and Interstellar, especially Interstellar, you'll know that Christopher Nolan doesn't use pure black. And this in Tenet is no exception to that. This is the reason he doesn't use pure black, right? Christopher Nolan, he loves using film. He doesn't shoot digitally. And when you go to see one of his movies projected in 70 millimeter, there's not going to be pure black because projectors can't do pure black like OLED. So really you have to have that in the back of your mind when you're watching this. For example, the opening opera scene, you know, there's going to be the very dark grays. You're going to notice that it isn't really black. I think that's okay, though. It's supposed to be like that. There's nothing wrong with your TV or your player or the disc. It's supposed to be like that. And if you watched Interstellar, there's absolutely zero pure black in that movie. All the space scenes, it's what we call raised blacks. So it's like a grayish black. And you can, if you're watching this on an LCD, if you're watching this on something that's not an OLED, then you may not be able to tell. You probably could tell if you have a good enough TV. But on OLED, you can definitely tell that, you know, it's not pure black. And for me, that doesn't bother me because I've seen this in the theater. I know how it's supposed to look in the theater. And a lot of what Christopher Nolan does, as you'll see later when we talk about HDR and audio, that he really tries to bring the theatrical experience to home. And he doesn't want to change anything at all, right? Even if you're watching this on an OLED, he doesn't want the pure blacks because that's not how it works with film. So let's talk about the HDR now. This movie does not get super bright. It's not very cartoony with the HDR. It's, you know, if you watch something like Power Rangers or Mad Max Fury Road, what else? Pacific Rim, there's a lot of Aquaman. There's a lot of popping and vibrant colors and explosions and super bright lights. This doesn't have that. But again, if you look at the theatrical experience, you're not going to get that from a film projector. And I think it really brings the HDR brings a really nice layer. It brings extra shades to the colors. There's a lot of scenes with oceans, just like in Dunkirk, a very, very similar scenes take place in this, overlooking the ocean. And you can just see different shades in the skies, different shades in the water, different blues and greens that the HDR brings with a wider color palette. I think that the HDR, there's a lot of blue and red in this movie. Not a lot, but there's blue and red play an important role in the plot. I'm not going to go into that, but the blues and the reds and overall just the different shades of between like black and gray. HDR is just going to help with that and just improve the experience. The explosions I don't remember anything being, you know, blindingly bright. I just remember everything having a really nice color palette and a really even, you know, presentation to it. It was really, really enjoyable. So I think for the HDR, if I were to score it, it would be difficult to score. I think if you're comparing this HDR to something like Aquaman, something very, you know, something with a lot of pop, that I would give this a low score, maybe a 6 or a 5 or maybe lower. But for a Christopher Nolan film, I have to say this is an absolute 10. That I saw this in an IMAX theater, and I think that this looked even better. If only I had a 100-foot screen, right? But as far as the image quality and the pure image quality, I think this looked, it can't get any better, and this is exactly how Christopher Nolan wanted. So I have to give it a 10 for the HDR. So let's talk about audio now. So the audio track is a DTS-HD Master Audio 5.1 track. And there's no Dolby Atmos in this. I don't think that's a surprise. And the reason that's not a surprise is because, again, the theatrical experience, there's no Dolby Atmos in the IMAX theater, right? So you're getting the same exact sound experience you would get in the theater here at home. If you've read other reviews or heard things about this movie, then you know the dialogue, again, just like Christopher Nolan's other movies, is very, you know, I don't want to say it's very hard to understand, but there's certain scenes in this that you're not going to understand what they're saying, especially on the first viewing. So, of course, that's how Christopher Nolan wants it to be done. Again, just like with the black levels, just like with the no Dolby Atmos and no Dolby Vision. Right, Christopher Nolan can do whatever he wants. I mean, he's one of the most popular, most well-known, probably most well-paid directors today. And if you want to call him stubborn, you can call him that. I don't know, but whatever he wants done, you know, that's what gets, you know, put on the 4K Blu-ray. So for the audio track, I have to say, the audio is really, really good. I have Atmos speakers. I have Atmos speakers on my ceiling, and I was not missing them at all. The bass in this, the low frequency, is crazy. Like, this movie is, I don't know if you would call it as loud as Interstellar. It's loud. It's up there with Interstellar as being one of the loudest movies I've ever listened to. And, I could not play this near reference on my receiver. I was not putting this near reference volume because I'll probably get tinnitus or something. It's really that loud. So be careful. Be careful when you listen to this movie. Be careful that everything on your walls are mounted if you guys have a proper subwoofer, because this audio track and the soundtrack and all the explosions and sound effects are really, really top tier. It's really a treat to listen to this audio track. Again, with the dialogue, it's very similar to The Dark Knight, Interstellar, and Dunkirk as far as how the dialogue plays through. If you guys haven't seen those movies or not familiar with what I'm talking about, the dialogue's hard to understand. Either use subtitles. I would recommend the first time going through, watch it without subtitles. That's how I would recommend. Maybe turn the center channel up a little bit. And then if you want to do repeat viewings, turn on the subtitles. I think, for the first time watching it, you'll probably be able to catch 70 to 90% of the dialogue. And then just turn on the subtitles the second time, because you guys are going to have to watch this for a second time. Unless you just absolutely hate it, then you don't have to do it. But I think to kind of grasp the concepts in it, I would recommend watching it a second time. And if just for the visual experience and the audio experience alone, the 4K presentation is really, really great. The audio is super bombastic, super awesome. So, of course, this is a absolute reference disc. I think this is by far the best looking and I would say best sounding 4K Blu-ray from Christopher Nolan, at least, and one of the best ones of 2020, end of 2020. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know what you guys think about the 4K presentation, if you agree with what I said about the detail and everything. I gave this a 10 on the video, on the visuals. It's really, really outstanding. For the audio, I didn't rate the audio. For the audio, I'm going to have to go with maybe an 8.9. I think regardless of the Dolby Atmos, I wasn't missing my overheight speakers. I was missing them a little bit. I think maybe eventually Christopher Nolan will add Dolby Atmos in. I don't know. But, as far as watching this in the theater and coming home and experiencing it again, it was really, really similar. I was really happy with the way they did this transfer. Really beautiful transfer. Awesome audio. Let me know what you guys think about the transfer. And, hit that subscribe button. Join OLED Kingdom, guys. I'm going to be doing more content like this. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.